Welcome into another edition of the Bleav in Mavs podcast. As always, I am your host, Wyatt Huskins, alongside Alex Tassopoulos. And Alex, the winning streak comes to an end as the Celtics come into Dallas and kind of whoop our ass. That's the only way I think I can put a spin on this game, especially as a Dallas Mavericks fan. They just kind of beat us in every level. Was there any, let's start off with the positives and then we can address the negatives. If there were any
hold
positives,
on.
okay.
We're 7-1 in our last 8 games.
Hey, there you go. There's a positive. Exactly the attitude I would like to start off with. I know that they beat us. I know that they beat us bad, but we are 7-1 in our last 8 games. From this game specifically, is there a moment or, a time of this game, potentially a player, Jaden Hardy, that you take away as a positive from this ass beat?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime Jaden Hardy gets to step on, the NBA floor instead of the G League floor,
Yes.
It's valuable for him, for his career, for him as a Maverick. And I think, one thing we knew from his G League stint last year, from this year, things that we've talked about, things that the Mavericks front office knew because of why they drafted him, this guy can score the basketball. There is no debate there. And he can score plenty and he can score quick. I mean, he had more points than Tim Hardaway had in 35 minutes, and he only played like 13? Not even.
I've got 15. 9? I've got 15 on the box score that I'm looking at.
I thought one of his earlier buckets was a wide open corner 3 facilitated from Luka, creating some, dribble penetration, pressure on the defense. Then he kicked it out and Hardy was ready to shoot. He had his feet set. And he ripped the cord on that one. So that was a really cool moment because obviously I know that like he can score the basketball with the ball in his hands, creating off the dribble. He had a couple of nice step backs on Grant Williams, which of course, like Grant Williams, who deserves some laud from this game. He played really, really well. And I appreciate that he was wearing the Luka Doncic shoes as well. But he is a solid defender, but he is a bad matchup for Jaden Hardy, a bad matchup in favor of Hardy, I should say. And Hardy took advantage of that. I thought the one thing I've kind of noticed, and I saw this when I got to see him in person at the G League, in Summer League, is that he's not quite as tight with the ball when he's handling as I'd like him to be. And obviously, I'm sure he's extensively working with Sham God.
Yes.
But to see him on a fast break layup, kind of put the ball between 2 defenders, stay strong with it, finish with his left hand, put the ball on the deck another time, and extend with his right arm away from the defender. I can't remember who was defending. I think it was Tatum. And he had a nice little right-handed lay. Good advancement from a really young player who I think, has some promise down the line. Look, when you pair their roster next to ours, it's not very comparable. When Luka leaves with an ankle injury, in the first quarter, that never bodes well for a Mavericks team that doesn't have a lot of other options. When he comes back and he's having a coughing fit the entire next 2 quarters that he's in, like it seemed to me that he's either sick, exhausted, something isn't right, or just the ankle. And he does like to exaggerate every now and then. We love our guy Luka for that, of course.
I think he limps at least once a game. That's my guesstimation.
It's like I think he has like some sort of forearm injury every single game. I think it's kind of just a tick that he has, like that he rubs his forearm, but he also like falls on it a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
No, but I mean, he was fine in glimpses, but he definitely didn't have his usual spurt, usual pep that he has in his step. I thought Wood, he tried, he played decently. He forced some things, but he did get to the rim, and we sought after some matchups with him and Spencer. They were both relatively effective. Spencer actually was pretty good in this game, but he's been good all season. So not a surprise there. It just was a bummer of a game to watch from a defensive standpoint, where in the first half, where Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are not hitting their shots. And I know Tatum ended up with a triple-double, and we can talk a little bit about that later. But I just felt like the Mavericks were on their heels defensively the entire game.
Yeah.
And that's what this Celtics team is able to do. Yes, they have one superstar, one guy that's, meddling between star and superstar with Jaylen Brown. But typically, like, one of them gives you a good night every single night if you're the Celtics on offense. then the other guys are able to dribble, they're able to pass, they're able to shoot. They play with each other really well. They're not afraid to give up the rock. And they just end up shooting a ton of wide open threes. They shot well in the first half. We caught ourselves down, and we weren't going to come back unless we shot just unbelievably well, which we weren't doing in this game. So that's kind of the tail of the tape from my end.
Yeah, it's that 3D&D that I talked about last episode of everybody can do everything. And if you're not absolutely perfect on your rotations every single time down the floor, which obviously the Mavericks were not this game, right? It's really a struggle, especially when, like I said, you're missing so many key defensive players. And I did see a clip of Josh Green going one-on-ones today in practice against, I Bleav it was AJ Lawson.
Yeah, I saw a report. It was 1-on-1s, 2-on-2s, and 3-on-3s.
Okay, cool. I didn't see that, but I did see the video of him playing one-on-one, and that's just an amazing sign. Something that this Dallas Mavericks team really needs. Even though, we are 8-1 in our last, or 7-1 in our last 8 games, we do need him back. We need Doe back. RIP Maxey for the season, for most likely. But it's just when, the Mavericks are this far down and you're not absolutely perfect on both ends of the floor, it makes it really tough to beat such a talented and deep team. There's a reason that they have the best record in the NBA, and they showed it this game, even though, like you said, Jason and Jalen didn't have good games, but the others are able to elevate their play. And that's just a recipe for success and a recipe for an NBA championship, if we're being honest.
Hey, they were your front runners.
They are my front. They still are my front runners. I still stand by that. I Bleav that those guys, even though that they had poor games overall, especially in the first half, but when they're playing well, when Jalen and Jason are playing well, it's just scary. It's just scary at this point. They're, like you said, not afraid to move the rock, and that's always a great sign for a great team. And, speaking of Jaden Hardy, which we did touch on a little bit, do you think, I'm assuming the answer is yes, but just to put it out there, his performance last night, is that part of the reason Kemba Walker is no longer on this Dallas Mavericks team? Is it just the guaranteed money thing, or is it a little bit of both?
Maybe it's a little bit of both. The timing of it all, right? We could still sign him to another 10-day if we want. I doubt we will, but I actually think it has more to do with McKinley Wright than it does with Jaden Hardy, because of what McKinley's been able to do when he's out there from the defensive side of the ball. And he has definitely not been a net negative when he's out there on defense. On offense, there are certainly things that, he needs to gain confidence in his shot. He needs to gain confidence in his floater. Some of that's really tough, right? Because he's a small guy in comparison to the other NBA players that are out there, especially against a team like the Celtics, where you look at their guards, like Smart 6'4", White 6'5", Brogdon 6'5". All those guys they're big guards, and they can all defend well at that. So I think it's the McKinley Wright, Hardy. But look, like we get into the playoffs, and that's a long way away. Hardy's not going to play a lot of minutes. We know that, right? Like we know that this current version of this Mavericks team, at least in this year, we're not going to see a lot of Jaden Hardy minutes. We would see McKinley Wright in a playoff game before we would see Jaden Hardy right now. In my opinion,
I think I agree with you there.
And a lot of it has to do with matchups, right? We might not see either of them depending on who we're playing. Right. And I think, yes, especially against a team like the Celtics, where their two best players are their wings, we're absolutely missing Green. We're heavily missing Dorian. Reggie is put into a position where, he's forced to do a lot on defense. And of course, we know that takes away from his offense. And then he puts up another 37-minute performance where he goes 0 for 1. So, and all of the Twitter haters come after him, and it's a matter of circumstance, as it often is with Reggie, right? Yeah. Like, he's a guy that only really takes shots when they're catch and shoot threes in the corner or at the wing. He's not creating his own shot, so he's not often going to put up more than 7 shots in a game, even when he does shoot, quote unquote, a lot, right? Yeah. Like, Spencer has the ball in his hands, he's creating for himself. Luke has the ball in his hands, he's creating for himself or for others. And so I think, like, maybe sometimes it's an unfair criticism against Reggie. It's also like, we have the team that we have. You want those triple D guys. You want the guys that can defend, drive, and what is it? 3 and D? Oh, 3 D and D. Yeah. Hit threes, hit spot up threes, obviously. Yeah. But that's not what our roster is right now. Right. Like, we literally have to trade 7 of our players for guys like that to have that. We have what we have, and maybe that'll get tweaked. The interesting conversation I think in the past week before the Celtics game was, what's up with the Wood extension? What are we doing here? And of course, Mark Stein has a report that comes out that says if they don't extend him, they will trade
shop him.
Yeah. So we'll see with that. I mean, what do you think about that? What's your gut reaction there?
Oh, I think I think you should try everything in your power to extend him. I think that he obviously wants to be here, right? And he plays really well next to Luka, and Luka really likes him and likes playing with him. I think all those 3 things, and that's just not even to mention his talent on the floor, right? So I think you do everything in your power to trade Wood, because at the end of the day, did I say trade Wood? I mean extend Wood. When you trade Wood, right? If you put him on the trade block, what exactly are you getting back? I don't think that people are thinking of, I don't know. I don't think that the Mavericks front office is maybe thinking about that, because what could you are you thinking that you could package something around Christian Wood to get a long-term better piece? I don't think so. I think that the guys out there on the market, whether it's Zach LaVine, Bojan Bogdanovic, Miles Turner, are those necessarily an upgrade on Christian Wood? I even struggle to say that Zach LaVine is, even though he's a really good player, right? But does he bring to the table what Christian Wood does not? I don't think that he does. And I don't even know if we have the assets to get him. I don't know if we have the assets to get any one of those players.
I just if you're moving Wood, you're losing in Luka Doncic's young career. You're losing his best pick and roll partner thus far.
Mm-hmm.
And to take that and trade that as a core piece in a Zach LaVine trade, now you're missing. Okay, Reggie can screen for him. We know that worked really, really well last year, right? Highly efficient pick and roll duo with that pick and pop action that Reggie was a part of. Dwight, of course, rolling to the rim. We know that that's there. But the versatility with Wood as a pick and roll guy, as a pick and pop guy, what he does interior defense for us, at least in the past during this winning streak that has now been broken by the Celtics. And what I saw was a more glaring issue, honestly, than not having our wing defenders, was not having more depth at the big position. JaVale McGee, as soon as he got on the court, I wanted him off the court. And
worst player in the NBA, dude. I don't know.
You've said it multiple times now at this point. You're a broken record. But you look at what this Celtics team has, and they have Robert Williams, right? They have Al Horford. Christian Wood can only be playing on one of those guys.
Yeah.
We don't have Maxi Kleber, who is our second best rim protector on this team besides Christian Wood now. And typically, I would say that when he's at full health, outside of the last 10 games, I'd put him ahead of Christian Wood, right? He's our best rim protector.
Yeah.
We don't have that. And we are severely lacking in the front court.
Yes.
And we need some serious help there, especially when you look at the teams that are at the top of the West with Jokic, with Zion once he comes back healthy. They also have Jonas Valanciunas on that team. Steven Adams on the Memphis Grizzlies. Guess what? He's been mopping up on the boards. He's had 2 games over 20 rebounds in the last 3 games that they've played. Jaren Jackson Jr. just had an awesome game. Watch out for him. They also have Brandon Clark. These teams can create rim pressure. If the Lakers manage to sneak into the playoffs, they have LeBron James and Anthony Davis. You need a big. The only team I'm not worried about, because we've already seen them without a big, is the Suns, because I don't think DeAndre Ayton can do enough, and we're just going to hunt that matchup. But
did you see his half-court shots on Twitter the other day?
No, I didn't.
Oh, it was Granny Smith shots from half-court, dude. It made me want to cry.
I was too busy noticing that in their last 2 games, they've lost and without Booker, and they scored under 90 points, which rarely happens in the modern NBA. They've got some serious issues that they're trying to figure out over there. But we're still, what are we? We're the 5th seed right now, right?
Mm-hmm. I believe so. Let me double check.
Actually, we're still the 4 seed because the Clippers lost. The Clippers got piped by the Nuggets last night.
Yes, they did. Bones Highland.
And Light the Beam Kings have not slid. I guess they've been bumped up to the 5th place, which good thing I took that over bet on wins to begin the year at betonline.ag. Promo code Bleav, BLEAV.
Perfect plug.
That
was perfect.
50% off on your first deposit. We love our friends over at BetOnline. But yeah, man, I think we need more games like this against teams like the Celtics, but we need them with Dorian and with Josh Green back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you make some really great points. I think that, processing what you just said. So you would for sure rather have, say in a scenario, you're not giving up Seawood, but in a package surrounding Tim Hardaway Jr. plus picks, right? I think it's the best scenario when it comes to getting a better player is about the only way that we're going to get it. So you'd rather have Miles Turner than Zach LaVine if either of those is available, right? For that right package, right? Would you rather have Miles Turner or Zach LaVine?
What's the difference in what I'm giving up?
I mean, you probably have to give up more draft capital for LaVine, right?
Right.
What I'm thinking. I don't even know if Tim Hardaway Jr. I really doubt that it really gets the deal done. But I'm just in this hypothetical. I think you probably give up at least one or two more first rounders or pick swaps, whatever you want to do. And then Miles Turner, obviously being, if they're going to trade him, it's going to be because he's on that expiring contract and the contract decision hasn't been reached. So
the thing with Tim Hardaway is like, if you want to create a trade barometer game where at 100% on the barometer, that means that a team really, really wants him.
Yeah.
Every 2 weeks, it goes from 100% to 5%.
Yeah.
Which, guess what? Those NBA GMs are paying a lot more attention to it than we give them credit for. They've got an entire team and staff dedicated to that kind of stuff, to scouting other teams. So they're seeing the exact same ebb and flow and inconsistency from Tim, that we are. And I think, like, I've seen a lot of Mavs Twitter kind of posing a guy that we could go after as FVV, Fred VanVleet, right? Because he's having a down year, and in similar discussions that we had with John Collins earlier this season. Is that a guy we can go after? But for guys like that, like VanVleet, and Turner's a little bit younger than VanVleet is, but and Turner's having a good season, so it's a little bit of a different discussion, right? Zach LaVine not having quite as good of a season, doesn't look exactly the same as he did prior to the injury. I just get worried about those guys, because if we give up too many assets, we don't have a lot to begin with, right? If we give up 2 of those first round picks, we're mortgaging our future.
Yeah.
And we're losing a guy like Josh Green and a guy like Jaden Hardy, who are basically our only young players on the team. Like, what happens when it doesn't work out? Then what do we do?
That's a real question, right? I don't know. I say Tim Hardaway for Miles Turner, just because I know Rick knows and loves Tim Hardaway Jr. That's a fact. And that would maybe be the reason I go there with Tim, and maybe not have to give up one of those guys.
But think about it from their angle, right? If they know that they're moving away from Buddy, okay, that makes sense. But if you're not, why do you need him? You also have Duarte, who's like pretty much a catch and shoot guy now as well too. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'd love to have MT on our team. I'd love to.
Oh, absolutely. He's one of the more perfect fits in this system that we run, with just because you could run both him and Seawood, like we mentioned a few weeks ago, out on the floor at the same time, and have MT just in the corner ready to shoot a 3, right? He doesn't even have to do that much on offense. If he just focuses on his defense, rebounding, and shooting, like, it would be stellar, especially with Maxi Kleber being hurt for the rest of the year. Let's turn our attention to the Pelicans matchup. I'm pretty sure Zion's not going to play, right? That's the consensus. Luka,
no Zion, no Ingram.
No Ingram. Yep. Luka a little dinged up. Does that if you look at this game with both those guys being out, and Luka is, hey, we should probably give him a game of rest. I don't know what they're thinking at this moment. That's, after coughing, after coming out of from that injury. It just, to me, that points to exhaustion more than anything. I think that he could probably use a break. I'm really surprised they didn't give him the day off during this win streak. Do you consider doing that? And if so, what are our chances against the CJ McCollum-led Pelicans team?
I don't think you gave him a quarter off. I'm sounding like an old head kind of right now, but you gave him a quarter off. If he's not sick, if he's sick, obviously you shouldn't be playing.
Right.
If the ankle's okay, and look, team doctors know better than we do. Like, if he can go on the ankle and they tell him he can, I think he should be going. This is a team that's ahead of us in the standings right now, and a win against them, even without Ingram, even without Zion, is meaningful. The rest of their guys are playing really good basketball right now.
Yeah.
Trey Murphy is on fire. So and he's going to want to make a statement. Like, he's playing for his starting position. Last year, Herb Jones started over him. This is important basketball for him during this stretch. He wants to solidify, a rotational spot in the playoffs. So, I think Luka's got to go, and hope maybe Josh gets in there. I don't know. I'd imagine not. I'd imagine he doesn't come back until probably like late next week.
Yeah. I think I saw something from that from Jason Kidd today. I'm pretty sure it was like he may either him or Doe or both could play by the end of next week. I think I saw that somewhere.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it's a Saturday night game, Mavs Pelicans. It should be, in theory, like kind of a blockbuster game, just like the Celtics one was. I appreciate Luka going out there and gridding it out, and giving fans a good matchup. He's not even playing past 30, so he might as well be out there. I mean, he's gonna be on the farm in Slovenia at that point. So I expect him to play. I mean, the one we kind of just got to wait and see, and then we'll recap that Pels game, obviously. The last thing on the Celtics, I understand where the criticism was with Tatum staying in the game. It's his second triple-double. But look, like, I think they're 6-7 or 7-8 in their last 15 games. The team that started the NBA hotter than anyone, still the best offensive rating in the NBA, but they had an abysmal loss against the Thunder without Shai Gilgeous. So I don't fault Missoula for keeping his starters in to have them get some confident run against, a depleted Mavericks team.
Yeah.
Like, I completely understand why those guys were still in the game.
Yeah, teams need wins like that. You need to be able to get back into that role, especially in such a long season like the NBA has. There's always going to be that roller coaster ride, right? And a win like this for the Celtics to keep their guys in and kind of get back into the flow of the game and get back into the flow of the season and get back into the flow of winning basketball games. That's super important. Like I said, especially for a really good team like the Celtics. Is there any last thoughts? I know you just said for the Celtics. Anything else that you'd like to touch on before we head out of here?
I don't think so, man. I'm excited though about The Last of Us, that show
dude.
to come out on HBO. Yes. I recently watched The Menu. Wyatt, you should check that movie out. Okay. It's also on HBO. That's pretty much it.
I will give my shout out to The Bad Batch, which just had their season 2 premiere on Wednesday, and I watched earlier today. So it was really good. Really excited about that. Really excited about The Last of Us. So I will be checking that out for sure.
I saw someone list Bad Batch as their favorite show of 2022.
Interesting.
I think it didn't come out in 2022, right?
It came out in 2021, yeah.
Yeah, I think they had just watched it last year and they were putting it on their kind of
really
year in review show as number one. So
yeah, that's interesting. I think it's a really good show. I don't know about number one for either of those years. I got to be honest. I think Andor, if we're going to talk about a Star Wars show, is probably the best one that they've made so far. It's just ungodly good. Like I have not the words to describe how good that show is. Just very gritty, just a very good change of pace, I would say, for a Star Wars fan like myself. But that's going to do it for the Bleav in Mavs podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And until next time, peace.
Later.